He sees you as powerless, as having a disease, of having needing to do certain processes and participate in certain things in order to recover. So it sees you as a flawed human being, as somebody who has an unexplainable condition that can never. Now, you can choose for yourself what you think this means, but to me, it looks like it's a fatal flaw. Like you can never, ever find freedom from it. And unknowingly, to most people, if you take on that belief, and this is what happened to me, and this is what I've seen in so many clients, endless clients, if you take on the belief of being a flawed individual, of having a disease that you can't explain or that nobody can really explain to you, it's called an unexplainable phenomena, then unconsciously you give up on yourself. You think that's what it is, and you attribute all these things that are going on to this disease that you've got. And we're human beings. We love an escape clause. We love a reason to say, well, that's my disease. That's not me, and that's what we do. We subscribe to a belief, an idea, a concept, and then we use it to explain ourselves, how we're going. And it just doesn't work that way. In infinite recovery, we have some core foundational truths. The first one being you're not broken, you're intelligent. So to me, that was really an offsetting of all those faulty beliefs and ideas. Addiction is not evidence of dysfunction, it's evidence of intelligence. It's evidence that you find respite within yourself, that your system is wired up properly and working correctly. The next one is that we don't go back to powerlessness. Powerlessness is a belief, it's not a fact. And you will behave in a powerless way when you don't go on a journey to meet and learn and know about yourself. So what I often ask people is, like, what things are you doing that you don't want to do? And that gives me an idea where they are. And healing can't come. The third foundational truth is that healing can't come from beliefs. By subscribing to a belief, you can't heal. That is not a healing journey. Healing comes via the presence, the relational presence of another person. So when you are present with another person, you automatically feel yourself and become connected to yourself and know yourself. And that's really what we're looking at. We're creating a journey of presence where there is a relational other, where you get to reflect inwardly and know yourself, what's true. And we undo. We do a lot of undoing. That's not true. That's not true. What's left after that? What's left after that? And come back to the raw experience of who we are. And the fourth is recovery is not about abstinence. Abstinence is not a requirement, it's a result. Recovery is about peace of mind. This is the fundamental foundational truth of what we're doing in infinite recovery. That abstinence is a behavior in and of itself. It is, I am going to do this with my body. That's what abstinence is. I'm not going to do this with my body, should I say. So it is a behavior, and behavioral change by itself cannot be healing. It can't do anything for your healing journey. You go inwardly to yourself. It's an internal process. Just changing a behavior can't make you heal. The two things are not even connected. And I can see why abstinence is suggested as a good idea, because it is a good idea for some people, and it gives them an opportunity to look inwardly. But misunderstood, like if someone says to me, is it a good idea to be abstinent? I'll say yes. Especially if they're self-destructing and doing chaotic things. But is it a requirement? No. And is it a failure if you slip up somewhere down the road? No, it's not that either. Because without the belief that abstinence is required for recovery, people have a lesser tendency to press the fuck it button after they relapse. So that's what happens in traditional recovery. People relapse, so they press the fuck it button and they go off on a bender somewhere. In my understanding, people relapse and they go, oh, that wasn't a good idea. I'm not going to do that again. Because they don't have the shame that comes with those installed beliefs. And the fifth fundamental truth, foundation, is there's nothing wrong with you. You can't convince me that you're broken, that there's something wrong with you, that you need to be fixed. And that's been what you've been convinced of by other people down the road. So we really move away from the steps, control, the forced things, the subscribe to these certain beliefs and so on as a way of recovery. And as such, it's delivered in a much more relaxed environment and a much more, people receive it much easier because it's not forced onto them. And by creating a relaxed environment, we're actually more open. The prefrontal cortex part of the brain is online. We're open and receptive to new ideas. When we're in our activated state, in our nervous system, perhaps everyday state for some people, we're resistant to new ideas. We can't hear anything new, and we need to be able to hear new things. Through this process, people start to question all sorts of stuff, who they are, for one. So their identity as addict, as failure, as broken, as diseased, drops away. And so you're just free. Like, well, then what? Who am I? So they can go on this journey to knowing themselves. Who are they? They know the things that are not true. So then they start to find out who they are beyond the installed identity, beyond the response to early life adversity, beyond the created ideas that have been given to them by doctors, psychiatrists, and traditional recovery models, 12 steps and so on. So this is really a video about how infinite recovery is different and what are the fundamental principles and how it works and so on, and how it differs to normal and traditional models of recovery.